Hey there, Sam here, and welcome to my channel, Snuggle with Sam. The one question I get almost all the time is, what is a professional cuddler? And you've probably wondered that yourself. You're in the right place if that's what you're here for, because we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So to briefly cover it, as defined by the International Standard Code of Ethics for professional cuddlers, professional cuddling is a service using consent-based concepts to create a customized platonic experience in exchange for compensation. Platonic specifically excludes, but is not limited to, nudity, genital stimulation, exchange of body fluids including saliva, touch of hands on any area commonly covered by undergarments. Now, this may seem overly formal and really wide of a definition, and the reason for that is because, well, I can talk about this because I was on the committee that helped make the Standard Code of Ethics, but we originally wanted to just include touch in our definition, but then we actually found that not everybody actually has sessions that are touch-based. Sometimes it's just sitting in the same room with somebody and talking. Sometimes they don't even talk. Sometimes just being in the space. So we didn't want to specifically say that it was always touch because it wasn't necessarily true and we didn't want to exclude that. So it does seem a little bit more of a wide spectrum and definition, but the reason isn't to include unsavory activities, I promise. And the definition for platonic kind of covers that. Now, for you, what this really means is that professional cuddlers are expected to hold a certain boundary for sessions that honors the fact that professional cuddling is a platonic experience and a therapeutic experience, and it's not meant to be a sexual one. Sexual things may come up, like you might get aroused, or somebody might have a wardrobe malfunction or something, but those things aren't necessarily things that we try to make happen or even look like accidents. They are just that. They happen, and they're not a huge deal, and we're not going to necessarily draw a ton of attention to it, being like, ooh, somebody seems turned on. Oops, I let my boobs slip. No, that's not what this is for. Those things happen and we're adults. We can put that aside and continue a professional cuddling session. Just because something happens doesn't mean we have to move forward with it. And that's really the true thing I see with professional cuddling, is that really good professional cuddlers are very good at holding that boundary, even for people that are just getting all these cuddle hormones in their head, or like getting really attached to their cuddler, and just based on social conditioning, try to do something that's not very just for friends to do. That's more like, oh, this is a friends with benefits thing I would do, like try to kiss them or something. And a good professional cuddler is able to hold that boundary compassionately and with empathy, being like, I understand where you're coming from. That's not where we're going. Let's stay in this experience with cuddling. That okay with you? Can you recognize that this is happening and still be okay that this is a cuddling experience that we're having and we're not going anywhere else with this? That's really hard to do. And honestly, as somebody that didn't start in this industry as a trained cuddler, I would say that the majority of professional cuddlers going into this without any kind of training really don't have a good idea on how to do that. And that's why professional cuddling training is starting to really pop up everywhere now. So that is meant to address those kinds of things in as many accessible ways as possible. So what does this mean overall for the cuddle field? When you go look for a professional cuddler, try to find somebody that's had some kind of training. In a lot of places, you might not run into that too often. And that's because professional cuddling is kind of like life coaching right now. Sure, a lot of people call them coaches. Do they have a certification saying that they're a coach? Have they been accredited through the International Federation of Coaches? We don't really have that with professional cuddling because it's only been around the US for 15, 20 years as a whole. So we're still pretty young. And some of you might even be surprised that it's been around that long. Really, what I've seen is in the past 5 to 7 years or so is when it started to really pick up. I only learned about it 5 years ago because, well, that's when I joined. I was one of those people that didn't think and just went, and I don't recommend that ever. But yeah, I highly recommend if you go with somebody that's not trained, do your due diligence and be very aware as a client, especially if you have a younger person as a professional cuddler, that they may not have the skill sets to really navigate what is okay and what isn't okay with them without coming off too harshly. So that's kind of the standard definitions and what it means as a professional cuddler if you're trained. But how do I personally define professional cuddling? Well, I help people give and receive touch the way that they want to within the boundaries of a therapeutic experience. They can trust me to hold the boundaries for not going into a sexual realm. That's not what a professional cuddling session is for. So knowing that they are safe to explore touch, knowing that it will never go in that direction with me, they can discover a lot more about what they like, whether it's unconventional positions, like moving away from being a stereotypical man and being the little spoon, or just receiving touch for the first time when they're a giver. And I love breaking those boundaries around like what touch means to people in cuddle sessions and letting ourselves really experience it a different way for the first time in our lives. So I hope that answers the question on what is a professional cuddler. If you liked this video, please press that like button down there, hit the subscribe button for more videos from me like this, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye for now!